The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows on the vibrant green of the Virginia wilderness, while Blue Ridge Mountains stood silent in the background, unaware of the future that would unfold in their shadows. It was the summer of 1622 when Rebecca West began to understand the true meaning of survival. Rebecca, a young woman of only 20, had arrived in Jamestown in 1618, lured by the promise of wealth and adventure. Like many of her contemporaries, she had believed that the New World held treasures beyond imagination, a chance to start anew. But the reality was far harsher. The settlement had seen its share of trials, disease, famine, and the ever-looming threat of conflict with the Powhatan Confederacy, the native inhabitants of the region. With every passing season, the harsh teachings of this wild land shaped her into something stronger. As the summer wore on, tensions in the colony escalated. The Powhatan, feeling encroached upon by the expanding English settlements, plotted a coordinated attack, aiming to reclaim their lands and threaten the very existence of Jamestown itself. Rebecca, like all the others, sensed the building storm as whispers of war filled the air. The colonists were ill-prepared for the devastation that lay in wait, their lack of unity making them vulnerable to such a powerful assault. On March 22, 1622, the battle began. The uproar engulfed Jamestown in a cacophony of screams and gunfire as the Powhatan warriors descended upon the settlement, determined to eradicate the foreign presence that had polluted their land for too long. In the chaos, Rebecca found herself desperately searching for her brother, Elijah, amidst the confusion. His boldness often led him into danger, and now it threatened to become his undoing. She caught glimpses of chaos, flames licking at buildings, the sound of musket fire piercing through the cries of the wounded. The acrid scent of smoke filled her lungs, and the undercurrent of fear surged within her. "Elijah," she called, her voice straining against the din. Adrenaline coursed through her veins, urging her to keep moving to find him. At last, she spotted him on the edge of the clearing, his musket raised, but in that moment of recognition, a piercing arrow struck him in the shoulder. He fell back, a cry escaping his lips like a bird frantically attempting to flee a looming predator. Her heart sank, a weight that pressed down harder than the smoke-filled air. Rebecca rushed to him, cradling his head in her hands as he gasped in pain. "Stay with me, Elijah," she pleaded. Her voice trembled, a thin thread of hope weaving through the despair. The attack raged on, but they both knew that retreat was only a matter of time. Just as quickly as they had begun to fight, the colonists became overwhelmed, the tide of this war washing away their defenses. It was then that Rebecca felt the ground tremble beneath her as warriors surged forward, reclaiming what they had lost. Determined to save her brother, she hoisted him to her side, his weight heavy against her, filled with the desperation of a new world threatened by its own hubris. They fled into the dense woods, weaving through trees and undergrowth as the sound of turmoil faded behind them. The wilderness, once so lush and inviting, became an enigma that they traveled through blind with pain and fear. Days turned into a blur of exhaustion and survival. They found a hollowed-out tree and fashioned it into a makeshift hideaway, but could find neither supplies nor sustenance. With the threat of discovery looming, they often had to rely on the sparse foraging skills learned from the natives' experiences that now gave Rebecca a painful sense of irony. The very people they had been fighting had once offered them help, knowledge, and friendship. As they lay in the reddening dusk, Rebecca reflected on their new reality. The world they had sought to escape in England had morphed into a darker, more protected existence, defined by survival and uncertainty. Elijah, growing weaker by the day from the wound, shared tales from forgotten lands across the ocean, their parents, their home, the stifling air of English summer. The love for home battled against the ferocity of their newfound existence. "Do you remember the orchard in the summer?" Elijah murmured one evening, the memory shimmering like a mirage. "The apples so ripe, so sweet, they'd fall at your very touch." Rebecca smiled through her sorrow, picturing the painted walls of their childhood home, the laughter of their mother mingling with the fragrance of wildflowers. "Do you remember when Father taught us to swim in that river? He said we were to ride the current, and that the water would never betray us." "I recall it well," she said softly, "but it feels like a lifetime ago." The weeks dragged on, and hunger gnawed at their insides with an insatiable ferocity. The injuries Elijah sustained became infected, and Rebecca's heart twisted with every mark of decay that painted his pallid skin. Yet, she remained fiercely loyal, holding vigil through the hours, keeping death at bay through the power of her relentless spirit. Finally, on the dusk of the third week, as the sun slipped beneath the branches like a closing curtain, Elijah succumbed to the shadow creeping over him. Rebecca held him, feeling the warmth fade from his body, knowing that she was now alone. After burying him beneath a bed of leaves and stones, she stood silent in the clearing, anchoring herself to the memory of a brother, an ally, a lost piece of her past. The pain of loss ignited a new determination within her, a fierce will to survive despite the odds stacked against her. When she finally emerged from the safety of the trees, she carried not only the weight of her brother's memory, but a newfound understanding of her place in this world, a world of both peril and promise where she wielded the power of resilience. Rebecca turned her focus back to Jamestown, no longer a place of longing, but a ground for reclamation. If her brother would not see the fruits of their labor, she would ensure others alongside her would make the struggle worth it. Here lay the future of her story, the new world teetering between harmony and discord, ready for those willing to embrace both paths. Over the years that unfolded after the fateful attack, the colony slowly evolved, stitched together by the relentless efforts of those who survived, a delicate tapestry of cooperation and conflict, hope and despair. Rebecca became an unyielding force within the settlement, nurturing knowledge learned from both the suffering beneath the gallows of loss and the wisdom gleaned from native allies. The narrative of survival through fire and water became a cornerstone of Jamestown's story, a testament to the strength of a spirit forged under duress. It wasn't just about the riches of the land. It was about the ties formed, the lessons learned, and the future claimed through perseverance. As the years waned towards the legacy of these early settlers, a simple flower bloomed on the edge of the clearing, tenacious and bright, a reminder that beneath the ashes of struggle could rise a new tomorrow watered by the tears of yesterday's dreams. Rebecca, standing as a bridge between both worlds, fostered a legacy that connected the hearts grappling against the tide of history, embracing the harsh realities of the new world, one courageous step at a time.